Exactly. So, for those that may not know that are going to watch this, I'm an MC over in the voice channel.
Yep.
For Vetted and the after parties.
Mm-hmm. And he kicks ass at it too. He's a great MC. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's very kind of you to say. So I love it because I get to have these moments with people. And I think one of the reasons that I'm probably fairly suited for it is because I do kind of explore the different ends of this thing, like go back and forth, but I don't believe in polarization. I don't believe in these extreme polar element, because it's too rigid. I think there are too many variances in experience in life and what the fabric of whatever the soup, the soup, I like to call it the electric soup, the electric universe, like this thing that we're a part of, is filled with mystery, and we're just discovering daily. And the only thing that we can be sure of is that we're going to be wrong. We're going to be wrong about some things. Like, I like to say, like, there's one thing I know, and that's that I don't know shit.
Hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie, and we are back at it again for another episode of Living Life Consciously. I have a very special guest lined up for you today, and I am stoked to get started. So without further ado, Justin, say hey.
Hey there, Cosmic Thrill Seekers. Justin here. This is Living Life Consciously, where we explore the extraordinary, ride the waves of inspiration, and embark on an adventure of limitless curiosity together.
I'm Leslie, also known as Light Being Love, an eternal spiritual being having a temporary human experience. And we are here with Todd Harper. Todd, would you like to say hi?
Hi, I'm Todd.
Hi.
Perfect. That's all you need.
I'm also living life consciously sometimes.
And for our audience that may not know Todd yet, join us for a mind-bending conversation on living life consciously with Todd Harper, a deep thinker, artist, technologist, and esoteric explorer. Todd has spent his life questioning reality, balancing skepticism and belief, and diving into shades of gray between logic and mystery. From witnessing an orb as a child to spotting a mysterious drone near LaGuardia Airport, his experiences challenge conventional explanations. In this episode, we'll explore UFOs, the power of intention, and the internal tug-of-war that is truth. How do we balance curiosity, gratitude, and doubt? And is the world pure nuts and bolts or more woo? I vote the latter. Get ready for an open-minded discussion that blends art, technology, and the unknown in ways you won't expect. Todd, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, man. This is fun. I get to hang out with some really great people that I happen to consider friends. So,
we love you too, Todd.
Yes,
I'm very pleased.
Likewise, we consider you a friend also.
Absolutely. And shout out to Patrick and Vetted where we met you at. So yay, shout out to you guys. Everybody is like one big UFO family around here.
Yeah,
that's right.
All right, Todd. So what first sparked your interest in the unknown?
So it's a great question. I remember looking at a photograph of myself at my grandma's house. And by the way, my family is huge on my mom's side. My dad was an only child who's adopted. On my mom's side, she had 10 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
Okay.
So all of those brothers and sisters had kids. And so I've got a massive family of extended, kids, and now their kids, and like it's huge. But anyway, so we had a photograph back in the early 70s, date myself here, 70 child. But so that's funny because in this photograph, we're in my grandma's front yard and everybody's looking at the camera except for me. And where am I looking? Up and back. I don't know why. I don't remember why, but intuitively, when I look at that photo, it kind of summarizes me, as opposed to a lot of people in my family, which is I was always in the clouds thinking about other stuff that seemed bigger than me. And there was no intention behind it, at least not at that age. I think I was just mystified by life. And so on that particular day, I often wonder, was there something that I saw? Because I could have been just looking behind me at my family, but instead I was looking up. So I don't know what caused that. It could have just been, anything. But I had an experience, and this was one of the things that, you guys had alluded to a little bit there, Justin.
Yeah.
So around 1976, which would have made me 6 years old, roughly, I went with my family to visit friends in a place called Madison, Illinois. And it was an evening. The weather was fairly severe, but the severe weather was far off. And I was always fascinated by weather.
I love watching lightning storms and stuff.
Yeah, I was scared. I was terrified of it as a kid. My sister and I used to, sleep in the same bed when it would get stormy because we'd be scared, and we would comfort each other. And then at some point I thought about this the other day, it just switches. And then all of a sudden it's comforting. It's interesting.
It goes from scary to, wait, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. And
I feel like the fear is connected to past lives. I just have to say.
Okay.
You know what? I totally buy into that, Leslie. I totally buy into that because I remember seeing different videos where they talked about past lives. And sometimes some of the scars, supposedly, allegedly, come forward with you from those previous lives. So let me give you a little tidbit of detail about me. I had a dermoid cyst in my eye. It covered about a third of my eye. Now it's gone now, but it used to be something that I was fairly self-conscious about because it was very different, right? Like everybody go, oh, what happened to your eye? Like they thought I got poked in the eye and just had this severe thing happen. I'm like, no, it's a dermoid cyst. And I often wonder, was that it? I mean, a lot of the nuts and bolts people, the science folks are going to say, come on, dude. You had a group of cells in your embryo and it formed into this thing. You stop making it woo.
Or in another life, you got stabbed in the eye and you came back with a residual scar.
Exactly, right? And I've had dreams before that I can only call extremely real.
Okay.
And
or like a memory.
Yeah. And for all intents and purposes, they should have been absolutely terrifying. But there was a sense of, oh gosh, I hate to use this word, but I don't know how else to call it, ecstasy. And what it was is a bear had bitten me, like had bitten me in my midsection. And what was odd about that experience is this feeling of this thing eating me, I mean, for lack of a better way to put it, and feeling this weird sense of like, I hate the word ecstasy is just so odd because it
makes me think of the point of passing. I mean, that's what near-death experiencers experience is joy, bliss, like nothing
jubilation
attached to their body. And when it's going through trauma that the body goes through, like is not, they're not experiencing that part.
Right.
That's interesting. And so it was a dream. And I know a lot of my buddies back at Vet Ed are probably going to go, all right, Todd's really off his rocker. But, it is what it is. All right. I mean,
you probably got eaten by a bear in a past life. I mean,
who knows, right? I mean,
it could also be very symbolic. I mean, bear has many symbols. Everything has symbolism. So, I mean, it could be something totally different, but
100%. And that's the fascinating aspect of life, right? Is this bookend of experiences that we have, and in the middle spaces, this gray area that I like to talk about, are all these details of possibilities of what things could be. And that's the fascination, right? That's what we're diving into.
Yes.
Whether it's nuts and bolts or woo or whatever's in between those spaces.
Yeah.
There's a mysterious element to this existence. And that's what I like to ponder and discover with folks like you, right?
Yes.
Friends like you. People that also appreciate the discovery sense of, look, we're never going to cross the goal line, spike the ball, and score the touchdown. This is an endless journey that we're on, and I'm here for it. I go back and forth all the time. I used this word the other day with Patrick in the open mic. I said vacillate because I was like, I vacillate all the time. He's like, you use vacillate, blah, blah, score, but it's true. I tend to do this kind of swaying back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of have to. Yeah.
I think so too. As a discerning, intelligent person who, that's critically thinking.
You got to be flexible with and open-minded, and you have to be able to change and evolve. I mean, we're here to evolve. So, I mean, it's all part of the whole thing.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, think about how wonderful conversations are when people are open-minded and don't instantly try to shut people down.
Or stick what you're saying in their box.
Exactly. So, for those that may not know that are going to watch this, I'm an MC over in the voice channel.
Yep.
For Vetted in the after parties.
Mm-hmm. And he kicks ass at it too. He's a great MC. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's very kind of you to say. So I love it because I get to have these moments with people. And I think one of the reasons that I'm probably fairly suited for it is because I do kind of explore the different ends of this thing, like go back and forth, but I don't believe in polarization. I don't believe in these extreme polar element, because it's too rigid. I think there are too many variances in experience in life and what the fabric of whatever the soup, the soup, I like to call it the electric soup, the electric universe, like this thing that we're a part of, is filled with mystery, and we're just discovering daily. And the only thing that we can be sure of is that we're going to be wrong. We're going to be wrong about some things. Like, I like to say, like, there's one thing I know, and that's that I don't know shit. I mean,
I say the same thing.
I don't know.
The only thing I confidently know is that I don't know everything. And every time I learn something new, it makes 30 more questions I hadn't even considered or could consider before.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And it's that, it's this domino effect that makes it so difficult to not have this, rabbit hole syndrome that, we get when we go on the internet and we start diving into things, and then it fingers out, and we've got this branching fractal of interest that 2 hours later, we've seen 1 minute of the thing we were out to look for.
Right.
But maybe there's weird synchronicity that sometimes these things come to you that for whatever reason, it almost seems a little kismet, like it's meant to come to you, like a fate.
Right. Yeah.
Your spirit guides know when to throw things on your path of awareness. They're just like, oh, take this now,
Right. And so in all of the years of being here, the one thing I can honestly say is that I believe in my heart of hearts that I have spirit guides. Absolutely.
We all do.
I tend to live my life through my experiences. I take in what people say, and I process that information, but I live through my own lens, right?
Yeah.
And so the best confirmational evidence that I can possibly have is my own experience.
Sure.
Right.
And my own experience tells me through these times of my life that were filled with strife, especially because that's when we grow the most, right? Is that's what, when I seem to get a helping hand. And call them angels, call them spirit guides.
Yeah.
I actually have had some pretty intense dreams, one in particular where I feel like I may have met some of mine, and it was, I mean, I don't like the word hate. I need to stop. I
love that you're being conscious.
I know, he's like self-aware.
You're observing yourself.
Yes.
Almost to a fault, to be honest with you, because it makes life really hard sometimes to constantly be thinking. Like I've grown a lot in all these years. Years ago, this would have it really affected me in a not great way because I was constantly evaluating everything, and that's exhausting.
Yeah.
Now, it helps in terms of like critical thinking because it's like working a muscle, right?
Yeah.
That over time you're going to get better at managing it. But I personally have to be conscious. I have to be, because I need to manage what's happening. Otherwise, I get overwhelmed. I can tell you right now that from the moment I wake up, and I'll get back to the story I was telling, see what happens.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like I interrupted you from the get-go. I
That's
just totally
okay.
interrupted
No,
you.
look, this was my hope and expectation that this would be a conversation, and I feel like this is going the way it's supposed to go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So from the moment I wake up in the morning, there's music playing in my head.
Us too.
And sometimes it drives me bananas because sometimes it's songs like, why am I thinking of this? But it'll be a song that's somehow relevant, right? Almost like the words or the story that I need to hear. I'm trying to remember the one that was.
I just got like full body chills. That's totally messages from your spirit guides, and
I love that. I love that. I would think that's love, right? Like when you get chills like that, I think that's love.
It's like confirmation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, that's how many people are shut off from that? You know what I mean?
So many.
Or don't allow themselves. They don't allow themselves to be open to it.
Right.
Because it's outside of their purview, the world.
A lot of that could be changing. I feel like that's we're in the midst of that change. I mean, you're talking about yourself doing it. You know what I mean? Us three here, you know, have gone through it and are going through it. And the more, you know, conscious you become of your own thoughts and the things that you say and your actions and all these things, you know, it becomes. You don't have to observe yourself so much. It's going to become more natural where you're basically rewiring your brain. You know what I mean? Like you're having new neurons and all that kind of stuff. Science, there is science behind it, but but everybody's going through this evolution or, you know, transition to a higher state of consciousness, I think.
I think so too, but I feel like there are a lot of people that haven't like really started to dive into this yet, and like Todd said, they're just now starting to realize. And
with this Jake Barber and all this coming out, I feel like I almost feel like, I mean, if anybody's paying attention, that's another thing. Some people are just in denial and don't even bother to even look into it. They just write it off. But I mean, there is something going on, and then it's coming out.
Right
about it.
So and that I love what you said there, Leslie, because to me that's completely relative to these polar hard distances on the edges, right? It's like people that can't, and others that we love that are so embedded in their way of thinking that it's challenging for them to break out of that. I call it the rubber ceiling, you know, is like you're constantly bouncing and trying to get to that next level, but there's something holding you back. And sometimes it's us.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's us maybe not even consciously, that maybe fear.
You're talking about the individual who's bouncing?
The individual, yes. That it's fear of something that keeps them from breaking through that rubber ceiling. And maybe subconsciously they're trying to, maybe they just think this is all just hooey. That's totally, like, it's okay for one. Let's just acknowledge that. Yeah. Like, everybody will arrive where they're supposed to eventually.
I feel like for the hardcore, you know, the people who, you know, want to like, you know, make fun of you or whatever for, you know, your open-mindedness or, you know, and what the people who are like those who aren't so nice about the way they think, you know what I mean? Like, and are judgmental, I guess, of those who are open-minded. Yeah. Those, I feel like they've, you know, dug themselves in a hole to some extent. And it's like, even if they are starting to be aware, it's like they can't even admit that at this point. You know what I mean? They just stay there because of ego.
I'll be honest.
Whatever.
Right.
I'll be honest. I think it's those people are scared of change themselves. So they don't want somebody
fear,
else
yeah.
to come in and start saying all these things and have it be true, because then they would have to change how they think. And I think it's their fear which drives them to stigmatize other people's views.
Yeah, and then ego, which keeps the denial aspects, so they
Right.
can like not feel like, I don't know.
It's that, there's definitely an element of ego there. I would say, I'm no expert, right? But I would definitely agree with that's an element of the ego. The ego is a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
It's a fight or flight response.
You just took those words out of my head, Todd.
Yeah, well, hey. But yeah, no, it's us a survival mechanism, and maybe it's us, escaping something scary, like you said. That could be a healthy thing, but it's also something that needs to happen in moderation. And it can be extreme. And to me, the rigidity is like the worst toxicity that you can possibly introduce to yourself. Right?
Yeah.
But it's also like, so I think so many times it has a lot to do with your own upbringing and the experiences that you have, and people tell themselves who they are based on their past.
So true.
What's mirrored to them, basically.
Right.
I was wondering earlier, I'm probably interrupting your thought, I'm so sorry. Did you grow up in a religious household or a non-religious household? I'm just curious.
So this is a complicated answer. So my father was basically forced into a Catholic existence, which I don't think was very pleasant for him. He was not religious, but I wouldn't consider my grandparents, his parents, as very religious either.
Okay.
Maybe they were younger in life, but there may have been something there that happened that caused that, feeling. I'm a chip off the old block. Like, my dad, number one, let me just say my dad was the best man I ever knew in my life.
I love how much you love your dad. You always prop him up every time you mention him. I love that.
Well, because I wouldn't be here, without him.
Literally.
And not only that, but he was so kind and loving and empathetic. He probably didn't give himself enough credit for what he brought to the world, and that breaks my heart. But that being said, he lived it, right? He expressed his love through his actions, and he was an integrity guy. And so if I have so much pride in that I feel like that's something that I got, not just from him, from my mom too. They're both amazing parents. And look, I know I grew up in a town that had a lot of dysfunction.
Oh, okay.
I consider dysfunction kind of normal, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like, what is normal?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
You'll hear it. Like, I had this whole thing where I was like creating T-shirt designs for the normies, right? Like, because like, what is normal? Who defines that? Who's the omniscient reviewer that gets to, place these restrictions on us and label us? Like, look, man, just be you, and nobody else has a right to dictate that to you.
Yeah.
And so it's very affronting, right? Like, when you get somebody who's trolly, right? Number one, they're acting out to satisfy some crap and some bad part of themselves that they can't fill, right?
Yeah.
So they're trying to fill this hole in whatever. And I know that people psychobabble. Well, hey, guess what? It's true. If you're being mean to somebody for no reason, like I get joy from being nice to people.
Same.
Yeah, me too.
It's weird to me that people would get enjoyment from making people
basically
feel
it has
terrible.
nothing to do with whoever they're reacting to. It really all has to do with themselves.
Yeah, it's all
It
projection,
almost
basically.
feels, it almost feels like they were bullied or something, and now they're taking it out on
Hurt people.
It's true.
Right. So here's the thing. I try to be really careful about it's reading the room, right? Like, so when I get with a group of people, I'm very observant and I'm paying attention to the details and I'm reading the room, right? Now I'm an icebreaker. I'm a natural talker. So that is kind of like, which is completely opposite what I was growing up. I was super shy.
Really?
I was super shy. I hid behind my mom's leg. Like I was that kid.
Okay. I don't think I would have guessed that about you, but all right.
Well, I'm a self-improvement guy, right?
True.
So the thing that I look at things that I need to work on, and I'm constantly working on them.
That's awesome.
And so that's kind of how I kind of came out of my shell around the high school time frame and really in college. Like just becoming much more outgoing and, you know, enjoyment. I got enjoyment from it. And so, you know, one of the things he did mention that I put in the, she was asking me for, okay, what kind of thing define you? And I would put wanna be entrepreneur, wanna be engineer, wanna be professional wrestler. Because it's funny. So the picture that I have that a lot of people know from Discord, we had a career getaway at work, and they said, tell us 3 things and we'll pick which one we think is most likely, right? And so I told them something like I was in a plane crash and survived it. I raised a raccoon, or I was a professional wrestler, right? Well, guess what people chose?
The raccoon.
No,
wrestler.
I'm an animal lover, so my brain went, ooh, cute.
Yeah, so you know, and so I made up a name, Bluto Grimace, right?
Okay. Okay.
It's Bluto Grimace. Well, so Bluto Grimace is that little character that I created.
Oh, your profile pic. Okay.
That's Bluto Grimace.
Okay.
But anyway, it's a total made up name that I literally made up on the fly. I was like, Bluto Grimace, you know. And they believed it. They thought that was the real thing. The real thing was the raccoon, but that's another story.
See, I was right.
Yes. I had one pet in my life, and it was a raccoon.
Aww.
So
I had more than one pet in life, but we could talk about that. That was the only one that I raised completely for reasons that were outside of my control. But anyway, okay. So getting back to dysfunction. So I try to be careful because I know that not everybody in life has had the good fortune to have great parents. I was spoiled in that regard. My friends love coming over. My parents were very jovial. They interacted with us. They were very caring and, you know, always wanting to feed everybody. And, you know, it was like a very jovial, loving.
Todd's house was a place to be.
It was, because they knew they would get fed.
Yeah, right.
They would be in a loving environment, right?
Yeah. And they knew it was going to be very warm and inviting.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it was the place to be.
Good vibe central.
Very much so. But
I just wanted to tell you too, I don't want to interrupt you when you were speaking about your love for your parents and your dad and all that, but I got full body chills again when you were expressing that in the most heartfelt way. And I also feel like you've definitely carried that and you live from your heart. I feel I can feel your energy, and I see you, you know, in all the chats and this and that. And it's like, so I just want to thank you for continuing that, and you are spreading more of that heart felt love.
Leslie, thank you so much.
Create the ripple.
That's super kind. You're gonna make me tear up here. No, I super appreciate that. I consider that a point of pride. I love that. You know, hopefully that's the center of where this is. It does come from, because I like humor a lot, and I know not everybody's humor is my humor. Very little offends me. I think it's probably why Allie and I get along. He's super, you know, crass, and so am I sometimes. I humor a lot, you know, and so I'm constantly joking. So sometimes you'll see me when I'm watching your videos, I'm in the chat just zinging, you know, random stuff, or when I came in and I was making pictures of Justin, which, by the way, when I said to Justin, I only do this for my friends, for the people I love.
Yeah,
it was meant to be an endearment.
Oh yeah.
Now I feel like I should edit some in.
Well, oh my God, please don't. I mean, we can.
The one that didn't turn out cool, I removed right away. But all the rest of it, I thought cool dudes.
Yeah.
But anyway, so dysfunction.
And then she was asking also about the religion and your upbringing. Like,
right, I'm going to do that. So the dysfunction was seeing in my hometown the just, I had a neighbor, she had 10 or 11 kids herself, maybe 12, to be honest with you. She had a lot. Wonderful family, really good people, very poor. Their father was an alcoholic. He was a great guy when he was sober, but when he would drink, he would become this other person. And I mean completely. I'll give you an example. He came home one night, drove his truck into the front yard, which was nowhere near the driveway. It was smashed in. He had hit something. And then he proceeded to go out with an axe and take an axe to the truck.
Okay.
There were times when, anyway, I don't need to go too much into trauma. I don't want to freak everybody out, but let's just say there were many instances where we would get a knock in the middle of the night from a terrified mother asking if the kids could come over and stay the night. And that was an eye-opener, and it was rough, right? Because the kids were terrified.
Yeah.
The mom was terrified. And the weird thing about that, the conflicting thing about that is this gentleman was such a nice guy. Like when he was sober, you would never know it.
Alcohol does things to people.
Oh my God. It was just this, like a switch had flipped.
I know all about that. My dad had some issues when I was growing up, and I think that's why I'm so hyper aware, because I was always in the constant state of where's terror going to come from next when he was in that kind of mood. And it was always like trying to protect my little brothers and protect my mom and protect myself at the same time and try to diffuse the situation. So like, yeah.
And my stepdad was kind of the same.
I feel like that really makes you like vigilantly hyper aware, because you're in fight or flight. You're like literally like scared all the time, and it sucks.
He was an alcoholic and had a lot of demons that he didn't work through, and so
alcohol brings out some really scary stuff in people.
It wasn't fun.
I just become more like amplified me. I'm like, give me hugs.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a huggy guy.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I always hug everyone.
So what it made me, what it reminded me of, what it impressed upon me was to be grateful for what I had. I definitely believe in the attitude of gratitude. But look, you gotta, even when things are rough, like there might be a lot of people that would get angry just in hearing somebody having like, oh, you had a great life, good for you, like, I had a terrible life, look, man, the struggle is real, and having to overcome all of these challenges in life are something that make you stronger in the long run. So don't give up. Don't ever give up. Constantly just push yourself to be the better part of you, the better aspect of you, and to set your own, establish you. And you don't have to be that. You don't have to be whatever this thing is in the past that you define yourself by.
Right.
It's terrible that people carry these scars with them. And, I hope that everybody can find a way forward. Whatever that means, in whatever discovery sense that it needs to be for you. Like, I hope you find it and it works out in life for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of shadow work that people probably
literally everybody has it. Like you're saying, you might have been blessed with, great parents, but you had struggles in other areas of your life. You know what I mean? And like, I feel like we all, we're here to learn. We've talked about this many times on the show and, in person, but or in personal groups or whatever. But we all are here to grow and learn. And like you said, we only do that through the dark. And, so it's like you need the light and the dark where they work together, and it's a balance. And and our perspective and mindset makes all the difference in the world on the way that we experience.
Absolutely.
I agree 100%. I agree. And, I really do believe that the times of the worst strife are the times where you're going to grow the most.
Grow the most, yep. Mm-hmm.
It's the scariest. It's, it's the most dangerous time, but it's also the time that sadly.
Unfortunately, it can be a catalyst, but it's your choice as the individual going through it. Are you going to let it be a catalyst and try to, stay positive and move through it and onward and upward? Or are you going to take it and go rock bottom and, just give up, basically? You could give up.
You make an excellent point. And that is that in life, and here comes Tony Robbins, Todd. In life, surround yourself with the kind of people that exude this energy that you want to be. Even if you're not in it in that moment, that doesn't mean to be a fake person. Please don't do that. Be yourself.
Yeah.
Find this group of people that are positive and bring that energy with them that lifts, but lift your energy too. Don't be a vampire.
Right.
Bring it and allow yourself to be this evolved version of you, because I think this happens a lot. I'm going to give you kind of a vague example of something. As kids, when we're around our parents, we have a tendency to fall back into how we were as children at certain points of our life, right? So you could be this, use myself as an example. You could be very vocal, outward, just outgoing person. And then when you get back in a situation where you're now the child again, you recede back into that shy, uncomfortable, quiet person who's grumpy, or whatever, because of the station that they felt themselves in at that time. Work through that. Me and my dad, the critical moment for us was when my grandfather, just before he passed away. I'd never seen my dad cry in his entire life. Ever.
Okay.
The man was a mountain. Okay. And so I was at football. I was supposed to get home and go with the family over to the hospital to see Grandpa, who was on basically hospice.
Okay.
Grandpa went into a coma, and I think subconsciously I didn't want to be there. I didn't like the hospital. I didn't like that ward because it was the cancer ward. I didn't like seeing my grandfather jaundice and the life draining from him. And I didn't go. Well, guess what? Grandpa came out of his coma. Oops. So everybody had a chance to talk to Grandpa, but I didn't.
We're hugging you, Todd.
He hears you right now, Todd. So
yeah,
he already knows.
Yeah, sorry, this story always gets me a little stirred up.
You're fine.
It's okay.
You're totally fine.
I come home from school. My dad is he's home and he's in the kitchen, and he's cutting potatoes, right, for dinner. And he's like, "Where were you?" And I said, "I had football." And he's like, "Yeah, but you were supposed to come afterwards. Where were you?" And I was like, "I don't know." I didn't have an answer. And so he puts a towel over his head. Okay, now it's getting weird, right? Okay, why did Dad just put a towel over his head? And out of nowhere, I hear this bam, and I'm like, "Whoa!" Because I was looking away. He had taken a potato, and I got a big hand, by the way. He had a big potato, and he smashed it on the counter, and it went into a million pieces. And that just jolted me. I'm like, "Whoa, okay." And he's standing there with his towel on his head, and he goes, "Do you know how that made me feel?" And I'm like, "What? Do you know how that made me feel?" He was crying. Never seen the man cry in his entire life. And he's crying, and he's wearing his towel because he doesn't want me to see it.
Right.
Yeah.
And something came through me, out of me, with a ferocity that you would not imagine. Because at that time, I did not have a close relationship with my dad.
Oh, okay.
And all of this anger of years of trying to please him and never getting anything in response came out of me, and I was furious.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I was yelling at him, and I said, you never talk to me. We never share anything. And, you know, we like had it out. And so after that, after the storm, the calm was we agreed that we would never end a conversation without saying we love each other.
Oh, that's so healing.
Mm-hmm.
So out of a traumatic moment, you guys had a huge bonding moment.
I'm going to tell you right now, that was the toughest thing in my life because
Why?
every time I said the word, it felt like rocks coming out of my throat.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
That's how difficult that was. But every day it got easier and easier and easier. And so what I'm trying to express through my emotion here is don't give up.
Mhm.
Just keep trying, and it gets better and it gets better. But you have to be willing to like go through the pain, because I don't like I'm very uncomfortable crying, especially on camera in front of it. But
Right.
look, it is a release. And
Sure.
after that, for the rest of my life, my dad and I never ended a day without saying we loved each other, ever. And
That's
it
amazing.
was like, yeah, it was super healing. And so when I talk about there's, you know, turning points, that was a turning point for me that I'll never forget.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that a little while ago, and I was like so impressed with the fact that, like, you know, it sucked that that moment happened because of, you know, like that happened with your grandpa being sick and everything. But I was like grateful that out of that moment of anger and frustration and release came this change moving forward for the rest of you and your dad's lives, that you guys made a pact in that moment to be like, yo, we're going to communicate. We're going to tell each other how we feel, and we're going to fucking say, I love you. And
it's healing and evolving their relationship, you know, in a healthier direction. I mean, I wonder how much I don't know your dad and his dad's, you know, history, but I wonder how much all that was related to their own relationship as father and son. You know what I mean? And he was dealing with that, you know, and it, I don't know if projecting is the right word. Let me tell you
about my grandpa. That guy, he was a wild man. So my dad was adopted.
Okay.
We don't know his biological family. We've kind of looked into it a little bit, but haven't really dug too hard. And his parents loved him very much. He was, you know, an only child. My grandpa used to ride boxcars state to state when he was a kid. He was a wild guy. He would always say, you should go down to the border and become a border patrolman, or he'd like come up with these crazy ideas. You should go become a pilot and do blah, blah, blah. It was always something like super
grandiose,
wild, right? And over the top.
Grandiose,
Grandiose. But he loved, we'd give him a kiss on the cheek, you know, and tell him we loved him. And you could tell he wasn't used to it, but he liked it. You know what I mean? Like, and boy, he had the most gristled face. It was, you know, like, he was a hard man. It was like leather, you know. But, you know, I think you're right. I think my dad probably he had a lot of holes in his life. And I think in a lot of ways he didn't know how to fix them. And so this is what I would say, because a lot of people, they'll get mad at their parents and they'll wait for their parents to fix things. Don't wait. You can make that step. You can be the one to do that. Be the person you are, and which is courageous, you know, like be strong. Help them. You're advancing past this yourself. So help them, because maybe that's what they need, is a helping hand. And so understand that sometimes we need enablers in a positive way in our life.
Sure.
And that is somebody that makes it okay to be flawed. We're all flawed. We're all incredibly flawed. And life's hard enough. So, you know, just help out. Don't be preachy. Don't offer it where it's not asked for. and if you really care for somebody and you see they're in a terrible way, that's a different situation. But I'm saying, in general, respect boundaries, but also understand that sometimes people need help.
Yeah.
Even if it's not this like, oh, they're an addict and their life is going down the toilet. Well, it could be more subtle than that. Oh, they self-hate because they think they're this terrible person. They think they're this person that their past defines for them. Well, help them through that.
Yeah.
If you've already pushed through it, help them through it. If you love them, like, that's the best gift you could give them.
So true.
Absolutely.
And then you're also helping to like heal generational trauma because, you know, a lot of people wouldn't, well, at least I'll speak for myself. When I was a little kid, you know, I looked up to my parents like they were like these superhuman beings. But then when, you know, as you get older, you realize your parents are just people that had a kid. Right. You know what I mean? They're just, they're also just people. So it's like, you can't hold them to this high standard. You got to like balance it out a little bit. And a lot of people now are doing that, are being those generational trauma healers. And this is something that I even have a hard time wrapping my own mind around because I'm still struggling with the idea that time is not linear, that like there's real,
so
you know, like it's like everything is happening in the now. Right. Yeah. So if you have a moment with your parents where you hear some kind of trauma, like that goes back 10 generations and it goes forward 10 generations. So the work you do in that moment is so important. The reverberations that happen because of it are like almost endless.
Yeah, and not to be cheesy, but be the change you want to be.
Yes.
It's a very cliche thing to say. It is.
Be the change you wish to see. Yes.
Well, my mom, I love the feminine, by the way. Like, and the reason I more and more through my life, and the reason for that is because I see the nurturing and the care. You know, my mom is a saint, and so we can roll it back to the religious aspect.
Yeah, was your mom religious?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but open-minded religious.
Okay.
She used to pound this idea into my head, and by pound, I just mean every time I turned around, everything happens for a reason. Everything happens.
That's great.
I'm like, Mom, stop saying that. I don't want to hear it.
That's what I always say.
I always say that. I came to realize that's true. Mm-hmm. I couldn't ignore it. I was getting evidence constantly that even though in the moment it feels like this thing that happens to you that kind of tilts you off what you feel your path is, and you go swinging off wildly, and you're like, oh God, what do I do now? That when you come back, all that hard thinking and self observation and like discovery of like really how do I get through this channeled you back into a stronger position than you were in before.
Yeah.
I'm going through that right now, man.
Are you?
My career is yeah, you guys have heard me say it. I come from the film, television, gaming area of digital creation. We are being bludgeoned right now. Between the strikes and AI is only just now taking hold. Like we're competing. Jobs are being condensed, and corporations are going to embrace this technology because it means they get to save money on salaries and things like that. Like, look, I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but I'm having to learn to adapt. So I
feel like that's the human experience. Change 100%. And adapt. Change and adapt. I mean, nothing. 100%. The only thing that is constant is change. That's not.
I was just thinking that.
He's got all the best quotes. I told her it's hilarious. You never read that story of these quotes, and she's like, "Yeah, I do." And I said, "You don't have to tell." I do love them. She's got a lot of great quotes.
She does.
But anyway, yeah. So my mom is a devout Christian, Lutheran, which to me the Lutherans are a little more chill. You know. Like,
okay.
The Catholics are very like stand ups, you know,
right?
Be very formal and proper, and it's not that the Lutherans aren't, but they're a little more relaxed.
Okay.
And because it came from Catholicism, right? So I used to despise going to church. For one, because I was bored.
Okay.
Yeah.
My mind was always going, and it would just bore me to tears.
Right.
Except for when the pastor got up there and gave a sermon, because the sermon was stories, and stories I could relate to, right? I can't relate to a hymn and making me sing. I don't want to sing this stuff. I want to sing like a song. I don't want, or something I enjoy.
Yeah.
I don't like recite somebody's thing in some ritual.
Right.
And they make you go through a ritual, like, why? It's their ritual. It's not my ritual. You're telling me I have to subscribe to this to get to heaven. I'm sorry, I don't believe that.
Okay.
Yeah.
In fact, not only do I not believe it, it's sending me the other direction.
Right? I can relate.
I'm going to discover my own path, because guess what? You don't get to tell me. I know internally that I could be a good person. I don't need religion to deliver me. But let me say, as an adult, a critical thinker, as the years progress, I realized that it's just a delivery system. That's all it is. I don't think there's any excuse for the abuse of anything. And I think that is the trouble with religions as a whole, is that it's abused by humanity for control reasons.
Yeah.
And I don't appreciate that. That being said, the core tenets of religion are great. The spiritual side of it, the wholesome, like, be good to your neighbor, don't steal things, don't, do these, like, be nice, just be nice.
Be a decent human being.
And if you prefer like a structure to receive that information to help you, then go for it, man.
Absolutely.
My mom and I had kind of a moment with this one time. She expressed that she was concerned for me. And I'm like, wait a minute. What do you mean you're concerned for me? Well, I want you to, I'm worried that, you're never going to find God. And I said, Mother, I have God. I am a universal energy, just like you. I said, well, you're uncomfortable because I don't take your approach to it. But I said, here we both have a box. And in that box is a gift. We both have this gift, but your box is wrapped in this Christian paper that's very ornate, and and in my box, in my opinion, is just a box. Now, I've refined that, because what I realized is that in some ways that was making me better than her. If that makes sense.
Oh.
Her box is all wrapped in a fancy wrapper, and she has to go through that wrapper to get to the same gift, whereas mine's just a box. And what I realized was, guess what? I got my wrapper too. My wrapper is the fact that I don't have a wrapper. Right.
Okay.
Like my wrapper is this universal like belief in that I'm part of the soup, and but what I realize more than anything as I get a little older is that we actually believe in the same things largely. We just arrive at them in slightly different ways. And I don't like the rituals. I'm sorry, I don't care for the rituals. I don't need to stand up and sit down and sing and do to prove anything. I don't need to prove that.
Right.
I know what's in here. I look at the camera, I'm like, wait. It's
right.
I know what's in here. I don't need validation for that.
It's an important reminder.
Yeah, and I mean, it's okay if that's your choice. I want to be clear about that. Like, I do not.
No judgment.
No judgment, man. Like, look, do you, like, whatever feels comfortable for you, you do that. Like,
I feel like because of the fear in most religions, I guess, that people are going to go to hell or whatever, so that because of that fear, the ones on the other side have a hard time judging others who aren't in their box with the wrappers and everything. You know what I mean? Like, because they actually fear that their people, their loved ones are going to go to hell or whatever. But just think how much control, over everybody's life that, it's like a limitation to expand and to think openly. You know what I mean? Like, and the fear aspect really does control people. I mean,
sure. Absolutely.
And it dictates how they behave.
Wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't that go against the whole idea of it? Like, this shouldn't be a fear, like you're being controlled and manipulated. It should be I'm expressing myself and being thankful.
Yeah.
And I can.
Everybody knows what's good or not good. What the right way to act or not, or things, you just don't hurt people. The commandments probably, I mean, it's like a universal thing, I would think, like it's just common knowledge on, unless somebody's a psychopath or something like that, they're just messed up. And I mean, I don't know, but
except for in those situations,
yeah, I lost track of what I was going to say, but yeah, I guess I'm not saying anything negative about religions either. I feel like they are stepping stones, towards a higher, like people
absolutely
just want to know where, they came from, and they want love, and it's what it's all about. You know what I mean? And so I think everybody wants that, but it's just,
I feel like the dogma is where we get tripped up, though, because that's, the dogma of it all is where people start judging others and then condemning others that aren't doing it the way they're doing it.
Oh, what I was going to say that I lost track was, the only way I come up to all this is the near-death experiencers. You know what I mean? Like, these people have crossed over, and they're seeing, firsthand who and what we are, that we are all spiritual beings having a temporary human experience, and like the things that we do. And if we make bad choices, God's not there like saying you're going to hell, and kicking you. That doesn't happen. You know what I mean? You're like literally reviewing your life and the things that you did where you were taught, in religion that you're going to be condemned and you're going to be judged. Like, that's not happening. What's happening is that you're reviewing your own life. And
does that feel like a benevolent energy, something that would hold that, like, against, like, oh, you didn't do this thing,
you're fully supported through it. You know what I mean? You're loved, and you're sitting there beating yourself up in your life review, like, oh man, I should not have done that. You know what I mean? But like, they're there behind you, like, we love you, everything's okay. Like, I mean, I'm not saying specifically that's happened, but that's the energy behind the experiencers and what they're telling you and what they've experienced. You know what I mean?
100%. And I love that you said life review, because this is where I was going to add into what you were saying is like, can you imagine anything harder than being in a life review where you are the judge and jury?
That's how it happens, apparently.
Yeah, that's the way I take it too. Is
but don't worry, because you're fully supported by your spirit guide.
Feel what other people felt.
That part.
The way that you treated them.
Yeah.
So in some ways, you're gonna feel that love and awesome. Like, if you were kind and like you help people, like, you're gonna get that back, and you're gonna feel it. But you're also gonna feel those times where you reacted out of fear or anger, and you did something that was not very nice, or hopefully nothing like violently, but like, you're going to experience all those things.
And the effects, the ripple effects of both, you know what I mean? So whoever you might have said something not nice to, not only did it affect them more than you ever could have thought that it might have, but then they turn around and treat others in a similar way, because it's like a ripple effect in both ways, positive or negative.
Yep.
100%.
And I think that's where we're evolving, maybe away from the religion and more into spirituality, which a lot of people think spirituality is religion, but it's not. There's like it's completely different. But
it is, yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, it's completely different. I don't know if it's completely different, but
you become more conscious.
There's a structure called religion. Inside of that structure is spirituality. It's just a framework that holds it, right? Because spirituality is, you can't contain it. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just us. It's part of the soup.
It's
religion is the box, right? Religion is like the box that contains spirituality. Not all spirituality, like, it doesn't have to be in the box. It doesn't have to be. It's just my opinion, Leslie. That's all I'm saying. I'm not making
you kind of lost me, because I started thinking about spirituality. I was like, oh,
sorry, Leslie. I didn't mean to derail you there. I don't
even. I was just expressing whatever I had in my brain at the time.
Yeah, no, you were saying there's a difference between religion and spirituality. Yeah. And then I chimed in and said, well, actually, religion has spirituality, but it's a framework, right? It's just
yeah.
So I was agreeing, and I feel like we're on the same page. It's just, I shouldn't have said anything.
I actually think that I view religion as spirituality with dogma associated with it, right?
That's kind of how it is too, I think. No?
I feel like the dogma of religion,
it's like man
drove me.
Religion is like man trying to control spirituality.
Yeah, and it's trying to control the masses so that these people think the exact same way that I think, right? And the dogma of religion is what actually drove me away from religion. and
Right.
made me. I became a staunch atheist for a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
like 15 years I was an atheist,
Wow.
you know, and coming back around, you know, I view spirituality and consciousness as the base of reality. I think that's more true, that I resonate with that more than I do with the dogma of religion.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, enough to for make you atheist, be atheist for that long. That's
And I'm
Right.
going to use
And-
your story to transition.
Okay.
Do you have a thought you want to finish?
no.
Okay, so you were atheist for 15 years, because I want to take this conversation to aliens, so I'm going to use this opportunity. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
So what got you out of being atheist? Boom, 2017 article, go.
Okay, so it was the revelations that so I started coming to the understanding that UFOs or UAPs could actually in fact be real and be physical objects in the airspace that we were seeing. Pilots were seeing it with their eyes. We were detecting it with sophisticated sensor systems, not just one, but multiple sensor systems. I've used the 2004 Tic Tac incident with the Nimitz aircraft carrier, the strike group.
Mm-hmm.
When that came out in 2017, immediately I was like hooked onto the story, because I had always thought that, UFOs, and I was always interested in UFOs and aliens, and, but I never really took it seriously as like there could actually be something to this until that article came out. And then, to come to find out, we have data on this. We have sensor system data. We have videos. We have pilots, firsthand witnesses, eyewitness accounts. So that forced me to look at the issue seriously. And in doing so, I started looking at the physics aspect of it. How is it possible that these craft could be moving in the ways that people are saying that they're moving? And so that led me back to quantum mechanics. I was always interested in science and chemistry.
space. It seems like you've been interested in space anyway.
Yeah, in space. Yeah, all throughout high school. And I was interested in quantum mechanics, but I never really studied it that much. And so I started looking into it and studying it. And then I came to the realization that there's aspects of reality that we don't understand, that we don't have a framework to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole consciousness thing came up and came out. And then, I learned about the double slit experiment and how is that possible? How is spooky action at a distance possible? And then I started, I learned about Donald Hoffman and everything that he was saying. And that led me to think about consciousness as being the base to reality. And when you think about consciousness, it's amazing that consciousness could really be the key to everything.
I think it is.
Right. And so anyway, to make a long story short, I know it'd take forever to explain things, but in a roundabout way, that led me to spirituality and coming to the understanding that I think that we are all the same. We are all a part of this universal type of consciousness, if you will. And if you treat people with love and you have good intentions, good things will happen to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amen, brother.
Right. So,
Amen.
So I know that's a real long way to explain that. Basically, UAP led me to spirituality, and
it's all connected.
thinking that we are all
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. I would definitely call myself more of a nuts and bolts guy.
Yeah.
Oh, so I have a question related to that. Can I just throw it out there real quick?
Yeah, of course.
All right.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, are UFOs more nuts and bolts, or are they more woo-woo, as some like to say? Or some people like to say, I should say.
Don't judge me.
He's going to say nuts and bolts.
Judge me. Don't you judge me, Ellie.
I'd still love you no matter what, Todd. You're a nuts and bolts guy. Yeah,
I'm more of a nuts and bolts guy,
okay.
yes. But
I'm not anti nuts and bolts.
Well, no, here's the thing. Like so perfect example. Go to VetId's main feed today. Some guy, one of the vetters was asking, why don't aliens, why don't aliens have decor on their walls, like something that expresses their personality? And so, I gave him my opinion based on the anecdotal evidence throughout the years, and then also kind of philosophically, logically, why wouldn't they, right? And
how do we know they don't? Where's that?
That's true, but we're going by the historical record, which the details of which are anecdote, right? We don't have any confirmation of any of these, so it's all alleged. But where are we going to get the details if we don't allow the data to come to us and then parse it from there? You can then, by researching deeper, you can go into the layers of that. You peel that onion back as much as you want to and try to get the provenance of the information and figure out whether or not the data is accurate or not. Okay. To me, in life, this is the dichotomy of my brain that is so difficult to tend. Is I've got the nuts and bolts side and the woo side. And there's definitely areas of gray, shades of gray, right? And I live in that space, but it's a tug of war that goes back and forth constantly.
Understood.
Because there are very practical things that I have to question. And more, the more I kind of critically look into it, the more I start to question how much of this. I absolutely believe in the phenomenon as something else other than us. Okay. When people ask me, okay, so what do you think it is? I say all of the above.
Right. Yeah.
Ultra terrestrial, extraterrestrial, crypto-terrestrial, like you name it, whatever nomenclature you want to use, it's all of it, right? And I think all these phenomena are intermingled, right? And accounts of angels and demons and stuff, they're talking about the same stuff, in my opinion.
Okay.
First. Just through a lens of a cultural lens of the time, right? Like they're seeing everything through their worldview at that time. So some of them said, we saw flaming chariots in the sky.
Right.
It was a UFO, right? I had a demon on me in the middle of the night. Well, it was probably a gray or something, like it's to me, they're the same things.
Okay. What if what we're experiencing? What if we are creating what we're experiencing? I say what if, but this is what I think, and
that's a
feel that we are.
That's a noodle bender that I like. Man, you talk about what kinds of things would be hard to deal with. That would be very difficult to deal with. That somehow we're manifesting all of this, and I'm not saying it's not accurate because it's an absolute possibility, but it would be hard to deal with.
Right.
Now, if we all believed it, maybe there would be real magical power in that, and power in a good way, right? Like power to heal our planet, power to end suffering, power to get greed out of here and get all of this divisiveness and like anger and murder and like all these things that are not natural. There definitely seems to be an invisible hand sometimes that feels like it's been manipulating us, because I just don't think it's our nature. When I get to know people from around the world and how they are as individuals, they are kind. Like by and large, people have idiosyncrasies. They're like very complicated and nuanced individuals where maybe we can kind of agree on a handful of things, but we can't agree on everything, right?
Yep.
We're as unique as a fingerprint. And so knowing that should bring you comfort that I think to some degree everybody wants to be special. Like we all want to be a little special, right? At least I want to be special to someone.
Everybody is so special. Every single person.
Absolutely. And so this is something that I sometimes end the voice chats with is understand the impact that you have on others. And even though you feel like you don't have an effect on others, maybe you feel like you're the fly on the wall and what you say and do doesn't matter, please realize that it does.
Yeah.
Words have power. So use those words in a powerful way.
Right. That's why all these trolls coming out lately attacking Jake Barber and stuff. I'm just like, you guys literally asked for this and now you're shredding it. What is the fucking deal?
Yeah.
Yeah. So give people time to make their case, to present their evidence before you put them on a stake and burn them alive. Right? I can understand some of the skepticism. Okay, I totally get it. Like, we don't want to be had. Like, people don't want,
and we're tired of being
like
had too.
Yeah, like that's been the
I can relate to that for sure.
And so that's the frustration, right? Is that we get all of this kind of buildup every year. Oh, 2025 is a year, 2024 is a year, 2023 is a year, and like there's all this buildup, and it's wasn't what we thought it was gonna be.
It's like behavioral modification over like long periods of time on the whole mass of humanity, like has been implemented basically, and yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, now there's all this energy building for anybody that's been paying attention to the Dan Farrow documentary. There's this energy building around this, and we're all kind of building that up now.
Yeah, the age of disclosure.
Age of disclosure, which there's supposed to be some big revelations in there, right? And there's supposed to be footage, potentially, Is it going to be another, I think either way you look at it, we've come a long way.
Oh, we have, for sure.
Time.
For sure.
What people need to understand is, like, look, this isn't the first time this has happened. Back when Project Grudge and Sign and what's the main
Blue
Book? Blue Book. Oh my God! Thank you. That was like having a major.
Yeah.
But yeah, Blue Book. Like during that time, there were all kinds of like citizen things going on, like people trying to bring the information out and get Congress involved. That was happening back then too.
Yeah.
So how can this be different? Well, this can be different because number one, the world is engaged.
I feel like this is different. I mean, the consciousness thing coming out, I feel like this is huge. I don't know, but then again, this could just be how I feel, and it could just all like go away. So I'm not holding my breath, is what I'm saying. Like, I'm not gonna put all my stuff in a basket and be like, I'm just kind of like, I'm observing.
Yeah, you have to take what resonates with you.
Yeah. Try to temper your expectations. It's okay to go back and forth. Look, I know it's frustrating for people. Like, there's a lot of tribalism in everything, in humanity. There's tribalism. It's okay to question. We need to. We have to. We need to.
Yeah.
It's important. Look, you don't want to be conned. You don't want people just throwing frauds out there because they know nobody's going to hold their feet to the fire.
I think it's great for people to be critical thinkers and to, question things to get more clarity. But my disgruntledness is where people just are just nasty,
attacking,
attacking somebody else and tearing them down and just speaking to them in ways that are just like, would you really talk to me in that way if you were right in my face? Just like Chris Lato said,
exactly.
I don't know. I don't like
Chris. I felt
these people.
Why?
Oh.
Because I just felt like he was given such a hard time when he came out with his theory, and like everybody was just ripping on him, and it's like, dude, like, he spent a lot of time on this. Clearly, he's thinking it through.
Right.
And it seemed like his health took a hit. So I was happy to see. I was happy to see him. The other day when you guys interviewed him.
Yeah.
He looked so much more vibrant and.
Oh yeah, he's
back. Yeah, for sure.
I really love that.
And just to put a little caveat on this, a lot of people were like, oh, he lost his mind, crazy, whatever. How about it was just like an ontological shock moment? Like a lot of people are going through ontological shock moments. I was thinking that with all these, what you might consider trolls or the attackers out there, they might be going through their own ontological. I can't say the word.
Ontological.
They might be.
You know what I mean? That's why they're doing this, because they're literally like, well, they can't, deal with it.
I wish that people could learn better tools to make sense of reality, because, and by that I mean more so meditation, because when I found meditation, it helped me to look within myself and to see that I am just the same as everybody else. And if you come from a place of love and empathy towards other people, you will be a whole lot nicer and kinder. And I really wish that people could learn, that tool as a way to
Operating
grow
life.
as a way to grow themselves so that they aren't nasty anymore.
Mm.
I mean, for me, it doesn't matter what the tool is as long as you're not harming others.
Yeah.
Like, arrive at it however you choose.
Well, right. Yeah.
And to try to be a better person. I mean, if you're obviously,
And ultimately,
you can tell when people are given effort to be like a good person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, choice is important, right? Like, choosing your own path. Go ahead, Justin. Where you gonna?
I was just gonna say. Ultimately, I think that's what Jake Barber's message is one of love and empathy.
It really is. And he's handling the trolls so gracefully too. Like, I'm looking at the way that he's replying to these people and I'm like, you see, that's how it should be done. Because he said something that stuck out to me where somebody was like getting onto him about some particular detail. I can't remember what it was. It probably doesn't even matter. But Jake's advice to this person was basically this. I don't know the exact words, but it's just basically this: to like, look, it's okay for you to question things. That's all right. It's okay for you to like want to know more. But in the process of wanting to know more and questioning things, don't treat people in such a way that you burn bridges. Make sure you do it in such a respectful way that there's a way back. Yes, that. Because so many people act in such a way that it like closes them off and it puts them, like Jake Barber's basically saying like, look, dude, once you learn all these things, like you're going to have that ontological shock moment to where it all absorbs and then you reevaluate what's really real and what's really going on. And, I feel like Leslie said a second ago, those people are going through their own ontological shock moments trying to make sense out of this, but just being assholes in the process.
Yeah, and it's like their pride and ego is taken over, and people are going to have to swallow their pride on this.
I've actually, I'll be honest, I've tuned out of debunkers and... because I mean, and people that are being trolls, I mean, I've
like, why argue with somebody or try to
I've completely tuned out from somebody that has their mind made up already, and their sole mission is to just go out and prove that something is false just because it sounds ridiculous. And to me, that's not a good place to come from.
And then everybody is on their own journey, right?
They are. They are.
From a critical thinking standpoint, I think it's important to. I totally agree with you in terms of people that are less than professional in the way that they treat others.
Yeah,
they're less than kind, right?
Yes.
But I do feel like the discourse is important, right? There's balance in everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I look at certain things and I got questions. I have questions, and guess what? Sometimes Mick West has a good answer. I know that's not popular, but it's true. I mean, sneezing monkey, they're both capable of being very they're usually very pragmatic, but they're also capable of being jerks.
Did you see the recent Jesse Michaels thing with Merrick von Rennenkampf and Mick West, and they kind of had like a back and forth? I was like, ooh, this is going to be interesting.
I love Merrick. Yeah, he's great. And to hear him talk back and forth, but I see that was civil discourse.
Right.
It's okay for a conversation to happen as long as the condescension isn't there. And I think that was the message that was being delivered to Mick is like, look, just be less condescending. Yeah. Because the way you treat people, it demeans them.
Right.
The same way with Neil deGrasse Tyson. I used to love Neil.
Me too.
Absolutely.
Me too.
Loved him.
Look, where's
it's behind us.
I actually have like 2 of his books, and I've been to 3 of his in-person lectures that he goes on tour. I've actually seen the guy, and I used to love him. And then it's like when he came out and he was so condescending to this notion that there could possibly be, UAP here. It's like it completely turned me off from him. Like I don't even listen to Star Talk anymore.
He's
and I used to love listening.
If aliens are so smart, why are they crashing on Earth? It's like
that's such a stupid argument.
That's your fucking reason for questioning this whole thing because they crash. Okay, let's look. There's
so keep in mind what that is self-revealing, right? It wasn't self-revealing. Revealing themselves.
Yeah.
But understand that there's not necessarily an agenda behind that. It's literally, I think, in their minds, it's just not feasible, right? Because of whatever they've kind of grasped onto in life, it's stopping them because I agree with what Gary Nolan says. Like, as a scientist, you should be the most curious creature.
Right.
You should want to check all this stuff out. So why are you so resistant to it? What are you afraid of?
It's the stigma. I think it's the stigma.
Right? It's the stigma. It is.
He doesn't want to be labeled as some type of crazy because he's actually looking into this, a crackpot, right?
And,
right.
I mean, he could be bought. There's that.
Oh.
He could be.
And I mean, this also goes back to what Dr. Daniel Branco said when he spoke to us, and when he spoke to Chris Lato, and when he just recently spoke with Pavel. Shout out all of them guys.
The science.
That the science is wrong. Like, the science is coming at this from like a matter is fundamental thing.
It's coming at it from materialism.
Is fundamental thing, and it's like once
and
the whole basis for the understanding.
We need to revisit the whole thing.
Exactly. Chris Lato talks a lot about that too.
People draw parallels between educational institutions and religion. But keep in mind, and I just want to remind everybody of this, they also say the same thing about our community. And I think it's a valid thing, because there are people that will put their flag in the ground, and if you say anything against any whistleblower, they're going to tear you down. So try and remember that there's a lack of objectivity from all angles.
Yeah.
So the best thing that you could do is be different than that. Be the person that is reasonable. Think about it, because I guarantee you that a lot of people that put that flag in the ground, they haven't read or listened to anything that you're referring to. So how fair is that?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to respond to something that you didn't even listen to. Where's your context?
Right.
How can you make a comment? Other than you want to be on your bully pulpit and you want to sit there in an echo chamber, I don't know. They're just saying stuff to be heard, and that they haven't done homework, right?
Okay.
So be reasonable. Just be reasonable. When people talk about this, realize that it's just a theory. It's all theory and speculation. Like, there's very little. The only thing that we can actually prove in life, and this is the reason a lot of people have trouble with the woo, is science, right? And I say that in a very sincere manner. Science is something that you can measure and repeat, measure and repeat, measure and repeat. It's provable because it's repeatable, right? Now, if there's a woo subject that you want to prove, then make it repeatable. If you can psionically call eggs from the sky, then do it and show that you can do it and repeat that process, right? That's the scientific method. So now, that being said, it doesn't invalidate all of the woo. It doesn't invalidate it, but what it means is it's the best kind of evidence.
Okay.
Because it's repeatable, because you can do it in front of everybody that's a witness, and you can repeat it.
Right.
It's repeatable. What
are you thinking? I feel you like trying to get a thought out.
Well, so I think, the scientific method is a method to explain reality. And the method is
physical reality.
Yeah,
physical reality.
Not
it's a method,
non-physical or metaphysical.
It's a method, and it is constrained by the method, right? And what if
physics?
Well, so all that, is I think objectively true, right? Physics, and I think that there might be a base assumption of materialism that could be not 100% correct. Not to say that it's not mostly correct, just that it can't explain this quote unquote woo aspect. I don't think the materialist scientific method ultimately is going to be able to.
Not everything is measurable. Okay, so hold on.
What I'm trying to say.
If you see what I'm saying.
What I'm trying to say.
Not to say that the scientific method is wrong, just that it's not 100% perfect. That there could be flaws in it that we don't understand.
What I'm trying to say is, because I believe all of it's valid.
Okay. Yeah.
Including the esoteric stuff. It's valid. The difficulty you're gonna have when you deal with the scientific community and the community at large who believe that those are the folks that have the most provenance, right? That their data is the most legitimate because it's something that can be measured. this is the trouble with the esoteric stuff. This is the trouble. What's cool is the quantum is very difficult to measure, right? The quantum reality is difficult to measure. So we were talking before, like, what brought me into this? Well, it happened a long time ago, but what really kind of took me to another level was What the Bleep Down the Rabbit Hole, which was kind of a layman's explanation of quantum theory. Yeah. And then The Secret, which was about intention.
Wow. Oh, yeah. I love that one.
So What the Bleep led me to The Secret, right?
Yeah. Wow, that's so real.
Led me to entertaining the possibility that intention is, in fact, possible. And then I started using it experimentally in my life.
Yeah.
And I was able to get personal results that gave me verification that there's something to it. Now, can I present that in a paper? No, because it's just my opinion. I don't have measurements. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So
scientific data is the best kind of data because it's something that we can measure and demonstrate through a repeatable thing.
Yeah. Okay. So here I'm.
It's not that the other data is.
Hold on. I have an example. That I want to get out.
Okay.
Okay. That almost perfectly explains your position, Todd. Okay. So pain, right? Do you think pain is real?
Personally, yeah, of course.
Okay.
Different kinds of pain.
Do you think the scientific community thinks that pain is real?
I think they'd probably complicate it with a bunch of,
Okay, so what I'm getting at is objectively, everybody has experienced pain. So everybody knows for themselves internally that pain is a real thing. However, there is no scientific way to measure somebody's personal pain experience enough to be able to prove to somebody else, to prove to another scientist that pain is a real thing that person is experiencing.
Well, let me be clear.
The only way that we all know.
Let me be clear.
Okay.
Like, I appreciate the demonstration, but you're not demonstrating it for me because we actually agree on that.
Yeah.
100%. I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm not demonstrating
I'm making
it for you.
the most vanilla statement ever when I say that science, a repeatable experiment, is the best kind of data. I'm being as vanilla as I can be in saying that it's the most easily measurable thing. Right?
You're making me think, Todd, because we're saying, basically the science and that we go off right now, materialism or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that is not open to the metaphysical, or, it closes it off completely. And so, in my brain, it's a separation, and something needs to be revamped, rethought, reconfigured altogether, but really, we probably could use a scientific method with the non-physical. Just nobody's willing in the community. The scientific community is willing to open up to, okay, well, let's do some tests with all this.
There are some, actually.
We could consciously call in the UAP or do other things, or, manifest things.
Yeah.
If scientists were willing to sit here and, take the data.
There are some.
There are some. The noetic sciences being one of them, right? Mm-hmm. Quantum physics being another, because quantum is very difficult to measure. It often depends on the observer.
Yeah.
Being present. Somebody being present changes the experiment. So trying to measure that, right? It's very difficult. It's very difficult because there's a series of probabilities. And until that wave, what is it? The dot experiment, slit experiment?
Yeah, the split experiment. Right.
Into, the waveform or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, particles collapsing to waves. Yep.
Yeah. So, there are legitimately scientists that are looking into this. Some in the more straight-laced scientific institutions will call it quackery.
Yeah.
But they'll be the leaders for the next age.
Oh,
right?
Sure. Yeah.
And then they'll look back and they'll go, wow, these guys were way ahead of their time. Right?
Right.
There are people that are legitimately trying to study these things.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're being pushed down just like the quantum guys were. But now that quantum is being validated, right? The science is being validated. They can no longer ignore it because a lot of them.
It's basically throughout history. It's been like that. So unfortunately,
Absolutely.
I feel like, we're on I feel personally that I'm like in this whole woo thing, I'm like, yelling from the rooftops, I don't necessarily, I just, whoever is willing to listen, hey, I'm here for you. I'm not going to sit here and try to like change anybody's mind or anything. Okay.
I wanted to make a point that two scientists that I think that are worth mentioning since we're having this conversation is Dr. Gary Nolan, shout out to him because he's working with Skywatcher team trying to get data on that front. And then B, shout out to Dr. Jim Segala and his MUPAS efforts with trying to measure all that and getting that going, because both of those doctors, both of those scientists are working with the phenomenon to try to get scientific data so we can make sense of this stuff, so we can satisfy everybody's curiosity.
Also shout out Dr. Daniel Bronco.
Yes, because he would be totally proud of the conversation that we just had.
Don't forget about the Tedesco brothers and the guys
yes,
that
absolutely.
The ranch. I know a lot of people might want to make fun of that, but look, they're out there trying to come up with methodology to measure this stuff repeatedly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's
they
what I
are
was
using the
say.
scientific method.
There are people out there, and in history there have been people out there who are at the forefront, but then they get, everybody thinks they're crazy or whatever. So like, I feel like, but nothing changes without these people throughout history.
Yeah, somebody's got to push the barriers a little bit.
Just to clarify, I do think that the scientific method is a very good method to explain.
It's where most of our discoveries come from.
But
I mean,
it is
kind of undeniable.
It is, but I don't think I think that there are limitations to it in the fact that
there are
that people the people come from this materialistic point of view and they completely shut out any new information. Those people, I don't think those people are being scientists.
I agree. But I agree 110%. And the funny thing is, whenever you say materialism, I think like you're talking about people that are all in the opulence and wealth.
But Todd, before we do end, I feel like that you saw an orb when you were a kid and you never told us about that, and maybe
we never got back to it.
Well, we'll have to bring you back on to talk about that specifically.
That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
But while we're here, I do need to wrap this up. I'm sorry, guys. We can keep talking forever, but I have to wrap this up. I have to be the one that steers the ship.
Okay.
You gotta be the adult.
So Todd, do our audience a favor, please, and let them know where they can find you online, what kind of things you have going on, if they want to talk to you, where they can hang out with you and all that kind of stuff. Drop your links, tell them where you are.
Right. So I think Allie, you're gonna put the all my links thing in the description. So my new venture is called Flow State Vibe. It's about being in the flow state and vibing, baby. So I'm definitely a multimodal human, to use an AI term, multimodal, like I'm into a lot of different things. The UAP space, and all the phenomena and esotericism that surrounds it, all the other related phenomenon interests me greatly, but I also love craftsman stuff, building with my hands, being an artist. I do 3D art. I do prompt engineering of all kinds. I'm experimenting with all this emerging technology. Currently, when you go to my website, you're not going to find much. I'm sorry. This is a new venture for me, and right now I'm desperately trying to find how to make a living doing it, and not necessarily content creation like these wonderful people are, but maybe that'll be a part of it. One way or another, I need to figure out my way forward. So I'm in that journey right now. But Flow State Vibe.
Okay, cool.
My name's Todd Harper.
All right, I'll have those links on the screen and in the video description box below. And don't forget, also vetted Discord server. That's where we hang out. Lato Files Discord server, my server, whatever. All right, ask your famous question.
All right, Todd, what is your greatest hope for the future of humanity?
First and foremost, that we don't blow each other up.
Okay.
I'd like to see us get to the next level, that we can get to the next level of technology without the fear or existential threat of things getting out of control because of financial gain, which is the concern right now with AI in general. If we can make it through that, the amount of discoveries that will be made in a fairly short amount of time as opposed to previous generations is going to be mind-blowing. Where it's going is going to be rapidly change, okay? And through that, as a result, because I want to make Leslie happy with this conversation too, that we're going to get a lot of people expanding their minds into what else is possible. I really believe that. I believe that the consciousness element is going to continue to grow. We're going to keep expanding and accepting these other realities, and hopefully the ontological relief/release that Jake Barber talked about is going to happen. Because I can tell you, as a guy that's been looking at this for my entire life, but really seriously for right around 30 years or so, that when that day comes, that I can celebrate that there's finally something that we can grasp onto a little more tightly. It's going to be a huge relief for me. I will probably get very emotional. I was very emotional at the first hearing, right? The one that took place with Grush and Fravor and Graves, like that was huge. I had no idea I would feel the way I did. And I was very moved by it. So I would like to see that continue, and I want to see the end of suffering. There's no need for it. Let's get people energy that they need. Let's get them clean water. Let's make sure that people aren't suffering around the world, and let's stop the wars. Come on, why? You have to think there's some hidden hand. I don't get it. I mean, let's take responsibility for sure. You can't just attribute it to this hidden hand, but I mean, dang it.
I know.
Not a natural act. Or didn't we move past being primal?
Hopefully we get there soon, because Earth is a crazy place right now. But I think that's a beautiful answer, Todd, because I feel like that's an answer that we're all feeling. We're all resonating with that. I mean, that's the most common thing that we get when we ask people that question is peace, unity, love. Stop blowing each other up. Stop fighting. Just can't we all just get along? It sounds so simple, but peace, right? Why is it so hard?
Have you ever seen the videos with people from around the world singing and dancing?
Yeah.
They're listening to music and they're dancing, and it doesn't matter what culture it is. Everybody gets into it and they're smiling and they're dancing and they're loving it. And it's this is what it ought to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's have a smile moment. Let's have a laugh moment.
Yeah.
Let's appreciate each other for our differences and the things that we have in common, and stop aiming guns at one another. It's terrible.
Exactly.
There's too many lives that are affected.
That's such a great message.
Great message. We're running out of time. I'm so sorry. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us and watching this video. And while you're here, please do us a favor and smash that like button. Click subscribe. Ring our little notification bell. Drop a lovely comment down below. And share this video with your family and friends to help us spread the good word.
All right. Much love.
Much love. Peace. And namaste.